There is a story whispered among old warriors, a tale of a ruthless habit, so simple, so merciless, that it carved legends out of ordinary men. They say it does not belong to any school, clan, or temple. It belongs to the moment a man decides to stop running from himself. In the mountains of Kai province, where winter sharpens the edges of every breath, a young samurai named Riku carried a secret weight, self-doubt, a quiet enemy, yet more lethal than any blade pointed at his throat. He trained harder than the others. He swung his sword until his hands split, but the louder his effort, the deeper the silence of his fear. Until one dawn, an old wanderer crossed his path, Master Sogen, keeper of an ancient system of discipline, presence, and spirit. He did not teach Riku how to fight the world. He taught him how to stop fighting himself. Through trials of stillness, confrontation, and inner death, Riku would learn the secret habit all true warriors carry: to face fear before fear chooses the battlefield, to look directly into self-doubt and refuse to blink. This is the parable of a boy becoming a warrior becoming a man, and a man reclaiming the silent power hidden behind discipline, ego mastery, and presence. In Chapter 1, The Boy Who Listened to His Fear. Before a warrior ever raises a blade, he first raises a question: what am I afraid of? Most men answer with steel. Riku answered with silence. At dawn, while the other apprentices slept beneath thin blankets, Riku was already in the courtyard, breath steaming in the morning frost, wooden sword gripped tight, muscles trembling from the previous night's training he had never truly finished. He believed discipline meant more effort, more drills, more sweat. Yet behind every powerful swing hid a tremor no one else could see. Self-doubt, a quiet shadow clinging to the edges of his spirit. The instructors praised his dedication. Riku trains harder than all of you, they said. But discipline without direction becomes a disguise, and disguise is simply fear wearing armor. Riku swung until his hands bled because he feared what happened when he stopped. When stillness came, the old thoughts resurfaced. You are not enough. You will fail when it matters. One mistake, and everyone will see you for what you truly are. This is the prison many young warriors build, the belief that if they never pause, their inner wounds will never catch them. But wounds travel faster than the feet that run from them. That morning, the apprentices gathered for sparring. Wooden swords clacked, feet slid across sand, and shouts echoed off the dojo walls. Riku's opponent was Masato, older, confident, known for cutting through hesitation like a blade through grass. Riku had beaten him before in practice, but only when no one was watching. Today, half the dojo gathered to observe. Eyes, judgment, expectations, the invisible audience that crushes more warriors than any enemy. Riku bowed. Masato bowed. The match began. Masato advanced with steady precision, testing Riku's guard. Riku saw openings, tiny gaps, places he had drilled endlessly for. But each time he tried to strike, a familiar voice whispered, "What if you miss? What if you look foolish? What if they see you hesitate?" And hesitation is the death sentence of the warrior. Masato's strike came swift and unforgiving. Riku froze for the smallest fraction of a moment, long enough for Masato to sweep his leg and send him crashing into the dirt. Laughter rippled from the edges of the courtyard. Some tried to hide it, others didn't bother. Riku lay there, breath knocked from his body, face burning with humiliation, hotter than any wound. It wasn't the fall that shattered him. It was the confirmation of his deepest fear. They saw it. They saw me fail. His master stepped forward, not with anger, but with disappointment. "Riku," he said quietly, "your enemy was not Masato. It was the story you told yourself before the match began." But shame deafened Riku to wisdom. He bowed stiffly and left the courtyard before anyone could speak to him. His footsteps carried him beyond the training grounds, past the shrines, past the town's quiet outskirts, and into the cold embrace of the mountains. Up in the hills, winter wind carved through his clothes and stung his skin awake. Snow crunched beneath his feet as he wandered without direction. The further he walked, the more the world fell into silence, an ancient, merciless silence that allowed no lies to survive. Riku sat beneath a crooked pine, trembling, not from cold, but from the truth gnawing through his armor. "I train, but I do not grow. I fight, but I do not become stronger. Why? Why does fear rule me?" His breath fogged the air. The mountains did not answer. They rarely answer when we demand, but in their silence, they reveal what we have tried to bury. Then footsteps, slow, deliberate, unhurried. An old wanderer approached, wearing robes faded by time and seasons, posture straight as a blade. His presence did not disturb the snow. It was as if the mountain itself allowed him passage. "Your spirit is loud," the wanderer said without introduction. "It cries out like a wounded animal." Riku stiffened. "Who are you?" "Someone who can hear what you refuse to face." The old man introduced himself only as Sogen. He looked at Riku with eyes that had no interest in judgment, only in truth. "You tremble," Sogen said, "not from weakness, from the ego's terror of being seen." Riku opened his mouth to protest, but Sogen raised a hand. "Fear is not your enemy. Your fear of your fear is." In that instant, Riku felt exposed, stripped of every excuse he had ever hidden behind. And so begins the true path. When a young warrior meets the one who can see him clearly. Chapter 2. The Ancient System of Stillness. There is a discipline older than any sword art, older than any scroll of strategy, older even than the clans that once shaped the archipelago. It is the discipline of stillness, the battlefield where every warrior either conquers himself or is conquered forever. Sogen led Riku deeper into the mountains, along narrow paths carved by wind and time. The air was thin, cold, and painfully honest. Shadows clung to the cliffs like old spirits. Each step felt like Riku was leaving behind a layer of himself he no longer needed. They reached a small clearing where a single stone sat facing a frozen valley below. "Sit," Sogen said. Riku hesitated. He expected training, stances, strikes, footwork, not a stone in the snow. "Sit," Sogen repeated, "and do nothing." Riku complied reluctantly, lowering himself onto the cold rock. The chill bit through his clothes, settling deep into his muscles. "What am I supposed to focus on?" he asked. "Nothing. How do I breathe?" "Let your body remember." "How long?" "Until the noise inside you breaks." Riku swallowed. "Breaks? What does that mean?" Sogen stepped behind him, hands folded into his sleeves. "You have spent your life sharpening your sword, but you have never sharpened your mind. A dull mind cuts its wielder. A sharp mind cuts through illusion." Riku tried to settle, but the silence was too loud. Thoughts surged immediately. What if I'm doing this wrong? What if Sogen is disappointed? What if this is a wasted time? What if... The storm inside him churned. His leg twitched. His back ached. His jaw clenched. Every part of him screamed a move to distract, to escape. Minutes crawled like hours. "You see," Sogen finally said, The body is willing to suffer. It's the mind that refuses to be still. Riku exhaled shakily. This is harder than training. It is the only training that matters, Sogen replied. The wind swept across the valley, carrying distant echoes as wolves. Riku tried again to quiet himself, but the memories came. Masato's smirk, the laughter, the sting of impact when he hit the ground, the voice that always whispered, "You are not enough." Sogen knelt beside him. "You think your fear comes from the world," he murmured. "It comes from the stories you tell yourself about the world." "I don't understand." "Of course you don't. You have spent years running from silence. Now silence is catching up." Sogen tapped Riku's chest lightly with 2 fingers. "Inside here is a creature you have never met because you never stopped moving long enough to face it." Riku's breath wavered. The cold no longer bothered him. The real discomfort came from within. "Fear," Sogen said, "is simply the body signaling uncertainty. But you transform uncertainty into catastrophe. The mind becomes the enemy." Riku looked down. "How do I stop it?" "You don't," Sogen said simply. "You watch it." He stepped back, allowing Riku to re-enter stillness. "This is the ancient system," Sogen continued, "not a method, a mirror. When the inside becomes clear, the outside becomes effortless." Riku closed his eyes again, this time with a touch less resistance. The chaos was still there, but something felt different, like the volume had lowered. He found moments, small yet precious, where the mind softened. Sogen observed him with calm approval. "Good. You are beginning to see the mind is not a commandment. It is weather. Let it pass." Hours later, when the sun dipped behind the peaks, Riku opened his eyes. His limbs were numb, but his spirit felt strangely lighter. "This is only the first step," Sogen said. "Stillness exposes what you fear. The next step is learning to stay when every instinct tells you to flee." Riku nodded slowly. For the first time, he sensed the training ahead might be nothing like he had imagined, and more necessary than any swing of a sword. Chapter 4. The Ruthless Habit. There is a threshold every warrior must cross, the point where understanding ends and practice begins. After days of breaking, revealing, and unraveling, Sogen finally led Riku to a secluded hollow in the mountains. Unlike the cold cliffs and open valleys, this place was enclosed by towering cedars whose branches formed a natural dome. The air inside felt different, thicker, quieter, as though sound itself bowed in obedience. "This," Sogen said, "is where warriors are remade." Riku stood in the center of the clearing, breath visible in the chilled air. His spirit felt stripped raw. The old armor of ego cracked wide open. He expected another trial, another path, another blindfold, another confrontation with fear. But Sogen simply placed a smooth stone at his feet. "This," he said softly, "is your battlefield." Riku frowned. "A stone?" Sogen nodded. "Sit." Riku obeyed, lowering himself onto the cold ground, the stone before him like a silent witness. "Today," Sogen continued, "you will learn the habit that forges warriors and dismantles doubt. The habit the old clans guarded. The habit emperors practiced before war councils. The habit that breaks fear before fear breaks you." Riku straightened, heart pounding. He expected a technique, a mantra, a ritual. Instead, Sogen said 3 simple words: "Face it directly." Riku blinked. "Face what?" "The thing you least want to think about." The words struck with the precision of a blade. Sogen knelt, his presence grounding, unwavering. "Every morning, before you speak, before you train, Before the world attempts to shape you, sit and bring to mind the fear you most want to avoid. Riku's breath caught. Why would I do that? Because fear chooses its battlefield. If you do not challenge it on your terms, it will challenge you on its own. Sogen lifted the stone. This stone, he said, is not an object, it is embodiment. When you sit before it, you are not sitting before rock. You are sitting before your fear. Riku swallowed. Which fear? Sogen's gaze sharpened like winter wind. The real one, the one beneath all the others, the fear that your entire identity is built upon avoiding. Riku closed his eyes briefly. He knew exactly which fear that was, not failure, not pain, but exposure, the terror of being truly seen and judged unworthy. Sogen continued, voice low and steady. When you sit with your fear, you do not fight it. You do not negotiate with it. You do not distract yourself. You stare at it until the mind runs out of stories. Riku's pulse quickened. And what happens then? Sogen smiled faintly, not with softness, but with understanding earned through decades of inner war. Then fear loses its throne. He placed the stone back before Riku. Begin. Riku inhaled deeply, the cold air burning his lungs. He fixed his gaze on the stone. Immediately, the mind rebelled. This is pointless. You're wasting time. You should be training. You're not good enough. Everyone will surpass you. You'll never be the warrior you pretend to be. The thoughts surged like a storm, crashing violently inside him. Sogen's voice floated through the chaos. Good, you are feeling the first attack. Riku tried to breathe steadily. Do not resist, Sogen instructed. Let the thoughts come, let them scream, let them claw, but do not move. Riku felt sweat on his palms despite the cold. His heartbeat thudded in his ears. A pressure built in his chest, an ache like something inside him was trying to escape. This is the moment most men flee, Sogen said, and this is the moment where warriors are born. Riku gritted his teeth, forcing himself to stay. But then something strange happened. The thoughts didn't stop, but their force weakened. Their weight loosened. The storm still roared, but it was no longer pulling him under. Sogen watched closely. You see, fear is loudest just before it loses power. Riku exhaled, long and unsteady. Master, I didn't know it could be faced like this. Sogen nodded. Most people don't. They battle symptoms. They avoid triggers. They chase distractions. But a warrior confronts truth directly. He leaned closer. Do this every morning, before the sun rises, before the world can reach you. Face your fear voluntarily, and you will rule the day instead of being ruled by it. Riku felt something shift inside him, a quiet resolve, a clarity he had never touched before. Not confidence, something deeper. Presence. Chapter 5. The Warrior Who No Longer Runs. A warrior's transformation is not marked by celebration nor by applause. It is marked by the silence he carries into the world, a silence forged in battle with himself. Winter melted slowly from the mountains, revealing the first hints of spring. The snow thinned, the winds softened. Even the cedars seemed to bow in quiet respect as Riku and Sogen descended from the training grounds where the boy had shed more illusions than years. Riku walked differently now, not with swagger, not with stiffness, but with presence, each step deliberate, as though he were listening to the earth rather than touching it. Sogen walked beside him, hands tucked into his sleeves, expression unreadable as always. You have changed, the master said. Riku did not reply. He simply bowed his head with humble acknowledgement. "You feel it?" Sogen continued. "Not confidence. That is just another disguise. What you feel is clarity." Riku nodded softly. "The fear still rises, Master, but now I know how to stay." Sogen smiled. "Good. A warrior without fear cannot grow. A warrior who flees fear cannot learn. But a warrior who stands with fear, he becomes unshakable." As they descended into the village, familiar sounds returned. The chatter of merchants, the clatter of carts, the laughter of children. Riku had once cherished these sounds as escape from the noise inside his own mind. Now he simply let them flow through him, like wind through trees. But one sound struck deeper than the rest: the rhythmic thud of wooden swords from the dojo grounds. Sogen gestured toward the courtyard. "You will go to them." Riku's breath slowed. He knew what awaited: Masato. The apprentices who had watched him fall, the echoes of humiliation still lingering in the dust of the courtyard. He swallowed. "Must I?" Sogen's answer was simple. "The training is not complete until you face the world you once ran from." Riku bowed once more and stepped through the dojo gates. The courtyard had not changed. The sand, the weathered wooden posts, the faint scent of sweat soaked into the earth. What had changed was Riku. Masato noticed him immediately. A smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth. Not malicious, but expectant. "So," Masato said, twirling his wooden sword, "the mountain spirit returns." Riku bowed. The motion was steady, humble. No tension in the jaw. No attempt to hide the tremor of the past. He simply bowed with presence. Masato raised an eyebrow. "You want a rematch?" Riku didn't answer with words. He stepped into position, grounding his feet, settling his breath. Not challenging, not posturing, simply ready. The apprentices gathered quickly, whispers rippling across the courtyard like wind through reeds. Sogen watched from the edge, arms crossed, face impassive. Masato lunged first, fast and decisive. His strikes were sharp, clean arcs honed from years of disciplined practice. The old Riku would have flinched, scrambled, retreated into frantic defense. But the new Riku did something different. He waited. His breath stayed calm, his stance rooted, his mind unclouded. He let Masato's blade approach, and at the precise moment fear once dictated his movements, he inhaled and stepped forward rather than back. Presence replaced panic. Their swords clashed, but it wasn't the force of the hit that startled Masato. It was Riku's stillness behind it. Strike after strike, Riku met Masato not with aggression, but with a grounded composure that stole the rhythm from the fight. He was not faster. He was not stronger. He was simply unshaken. Masato grew frustrated. "Why aren't you reacting?" Riku spoke in a calm, measured tone. "I am reacting, just not to my fear." The courtyard fell silent. Masato moved again, this time with a desperate attempt to break the rhythm. But Riku flowed with him, redirecting energy, turning sharp assaults into harmless arcs of motion. When the final opening appeared, Riku placed the tip of his wooden sword gently against Masato's chest. He did not strike, he simply marked the moment. Masato froze, then exhaled and bowed deeply. The apprentices murmured in awe. Riku stepped back, breath steady, spirit anchored. Sogen approached him slowly. "You understand now," he said. "Victory is not overpowering your opponent. Victory is refusing to abandon yourself." Riku bowed, not in triumph, but in gratitude. He felt no surge of pride, no rush of superiority, only a deep, grounded clarity, the quiet knowing that he had finally crossed a threshold within himself. He was no longer the boy who feared being seen. He was the man who met the world with presence. Riku didn't kill his self-doubt. He did something far more ruthless. He turned it into a daily target. Every morning, before the noise, before the world, before the day could ambush him, he sat, faced the fear he least wanted to think about, and refused to look away. That is the ruthless samurai habit. Not affirmations, not pretending, not hiding behind more work, but voluntarily stepping into the thought that scares you most until it loses the power to move you. If you felt yourself in Riku, always training, always trying, but secretly ruled by self-doubt, then this is not just a story for you, it's a mirror and a challenge. Subscribe to Focus Dojo. This channel is where we turn ancient warrior discipline into modern inner systems for men who are done letting invisible fear run their life. Comment below, I face it first. That's your first act of discipline, naming the habit you're going to build. Share this with someone who looks hardworking, but you can see the hesitation in their eyes when it matters. This is Focus Dojo, where we don't wait for self-doubt to choose the battlefield. We meet it at dawn, we look it in the eye, and we walk forward anyway. I'll see you in the next training.